Hi, this is Mark Snyder, and I'd like to share some tips for effective professional communication. Let's start by thinking about the reasons why we might need to communicate. Has an issue come up on a project you're working on? Did you get a grade on some project that you don't understand? Was a topic covered in class that maybe you just want to understand better? Often the reason you need to communicate comes with some baggage that involves some kind of emotion. Sometimes it's easier said than done, but one thing that helps me with effective communication is to first start by diffusing some of that emotion. And a good way to do that is to just take a deep breath first and relax. By the way, it's perfectly reasonable and normal to feel frustrated if an assignment isn't going well, especially if it's not the first time on this class that you've had a problem with an assignment. Maybe you're under the stress of a deadline. Maybe getting a good grade is particularly important to you in this class. Likewise, it's totally normal to have some anxiety about meeting somebody new or talking to somebody for the first time, especially if it's somebody who, again, whose opinion is important or valuable to you. But the rational approach, despite how we might feel about the situation, is not to let those emotions keep us from getting the solution we want. Showing anger won't help the professor suggest a solution better, and anxiety about talking to the professor that leads you to avoiding a conversation won't help either. I know I can count on one hand the number of times in my undergraduate years that I reached out and approached a professor, and I can tell you my grade showed for it. I told myself things like, oh, they're busy, or I don't want to bother them, or oh, I don't want to look like I'm asking a dumb question, things like that. What I will tell you is that, with exceptions, of course, your professor truly wants you to succeed in the class and enjoys talking about the subject matter, which is why he picked the subject in the first place. He will like it if you reach out, as long as the communication is professional. Now, along with the managing emotions, I think that one technique that helps is if you avoid the words you and your in the conversation and shift the focus to address the problem or the assignment or the tool. Getting rid of the you and your removes unintentionally making the other person feel like they're under attack or that they're receiving some kind of criticism. Again, we want to focus on getting you what you want, and inadvertently triggering someone doesn't help to start the process. Hopefully now we're in the right frame of mind to get the best out of our communication. Let's talk about how to initiate the conversation. First, it's essential to identify yourself. Often this is overlooked, surprisingly, but this includes your first and last name, your student ID, which here at FSW is the 8-digit number that follows the @ sign on your ID, as well as the course number and the section. This semester, for example, I have 7 different classes, and each of them have a max of 30 to 35 students enrolled. So what is that, about 200 students? So the odds are pretty slim, especially the first week or two of class, that I'm going to remember which of those classes you are enrolled in. In addition, clearly identify which assignment your question pertains to. I hear students comment that Canvas and the other tools that we have to use, MindTap, etc., sometimes are not the most user-friendly or intuitive. Well, it's the same for us teachers too, and making us hunt and search around in those tools to find your assignment or your student records or your grades, it just causes needless delay. Including this information makes it much quicker for us to zero in on the target and more likely that you're going to get the help that you need. Without it, you're probably going to get responses, who are you again? Or what assignment are we talking about? It's just needless back and forth. So let's be frank, using titles are a form of respect. I know that society today is much less formal than it was in the past. And I know from interacting with my colleagues that, again, with exceptions, very few of us expect or demand deference to our title or position. We're not looking for students to come kiss our ring in order to get information from us. But at the same time, remember, your teachers have invested a lot of time, their own money, and hard work to get where they are, and are not typically paid great for their service relative to what they could be getting in a job in the free market. Most of them are honestly at a stage where giving back to the next generation is something that's more important than just the highest salary that they can demand. Addressing your teacher by their proper title is free, and while overdoing it isn't appropriate either, it's a great place to start with communicating with them and shows a small amount of appreciation for what they do. I've always thought that this was a funny scene from The Big Bang Theory. Maybe you've seen it already too.
Oh, boys.
Dr. Gablehauser?
Dr. Cooper-Polly.
Dr. Gablehauser?
Dr. Hofstadter.
Dr. Gablehauser?
Dr. Cooper.
Dr. Gablehauser?
Mr. Wolowitz.
So yeah, it kind of speaks for itself. But proper grammar, punctuation, capitalization, using complete sentences, these are also important when communicating your teacher. In this day where we have all the myriad proofreading tools and other tools available to us, writing in slang or in the style of a text message, using abbreviations or acronyms that maybe not everybody understands, it sometimes just comes across as lazy and a half-hearted attempt at communication, not cool. Along those lines, I prefer email over voicemail, messaging apps, text messages, etc. Email just works better. One practical reason for this is that when we have subsequent conversations, I might want to go back and search and recall our previous conversation, and searching across half a dozen places is just annoying. Also, closing your communication can be just as simple as saying thank you and your name, but don't skip over this simple technique in your communication. Many people assume that, oh, I can go to the teacher for any question. They're my point of contact with this class. No matter what it is, I can ask the teacher. In reality, your professor is a proven expert in the subject matter that he's teaching, but usually not at other areas like the academic policies at the school or what the bookstore or procurement process is at the school, specific graduation requirements across many different degrees. So first of all, make sure that you're asking your question to the right person. Maybe you need to direct your question to registrar's office or an administrative assistant in the department, things like that, and not expecting the teacher to know every issue about every subject. With any problem, describe what you're experiencing, of course. Also include what you expected to see. And it's very important to include what you tried to do first in order to find a solution. We'll talk about that in a minute. A popular phrase today is bring the receipts. In this context, what we're talking about by that is you should include, let's say, screenshots of what you saw. You know, a picture is worth 1,000 words. If it's a coding assignment, which a lot of my classes involve programming, include a little snippet of the code that's giving you trouble. If it's a paragraph in the textbook, include the page number so that it helps the teacher find it more quickly. I know that often when I see the actual code a student is working on, it jumps out at me immediately what the problem is, and I can quickly provide a useful answer. When we're just talking about a description, we dance around the issue and we're both getting more confused as it goes along. So just, like I said, bring the receipts. This requires a little bit more thought and effort, but show some effort in your communication. Don't just fire and forget and think, I'll just say, hey, it's broken, I'm having trouble, and immediately get a useful response. I think sometimes nowadays students feel wary of seeking help outside of what they see inside Canvas or inside the course content for fear it might lead to accusations of cheating or whatever. However, it's reasonable to do a simple Google search for the problem or the error message that you're hitting. These software tools that we're using are popular enough that other people have probably encountered the same thing, and maybe there's a suggested solution there. Short of asking some AI tool for the solution to the assignment, which is obviously inappropriate, most professors will appreciate you seeking a solution to a problem yourself over a low effort ask. In IT circles, we often hear, hey, have you tried turning it off and on again? But you'd be surprised how often that fixes the problem. With our, again, myriad of web-based tools, there are some simple things you can try. I usually suggest closing the browser and reopening it. One problem is often getting logged out of a website without knowing it. You're sitting there looking at the same page for 15, 20 minutes, and unbeknownst to you, it is timed out behind the scenes and you're logged out. Well, sometimes just logging out and logging back in again can restore your session and fix the issue. You can try the same assignment on a different browser. We have Edge, we have Chrome, we have Firefox. Just trying the same thing on a different browser can often tell you whether it's a browser-specific issue or a cookies-related issue. You'll hear that a lot. Try a different computer, your laptop versus the school computer versus some other computer. Try a different computer. Is your internet connection simply down? Maybe there's a storm going on outside. Switch from Wi-Fi to a wired connection to a cellular connection, a hotspot. See if maybe that's part of the problem. Often students are trying to do their work on a Mac or a Chromebook or even an iPad or a phone. Most of the content, like it or not, is designed to work best on a PC. And pushing the envelope is a great character trait in some contexts, but it's probably not always helpful when your assignment is due in 2 hours in the middle of the night. Bottom line is, if you haven't already tried a reasonable set of steps to resolve the issue yourself, the first responses you get from your professor might be, hey, try this, try this, try this, and get back to me if you're still having an issue. If you try those things first, hey, you might solve the problem and eliminate the need to ask the question at all, or at least it lets the professor know that you're trying to work on finding a solution yourself, but you've had problems and you still are not getting anywhere. Another note on timing, teachers, for us, this is a job also. We have regular business hours. We have meetings that we have to go to. We have other demands, other projects that demand our time. And so when you ask for help outside of the 8 to 5 normal business hours, it's important to remember that you can hope for an answer, but don't demand one. Because again, this is a regular job for us too. What I would say is, often if I get a clear, concise answer where the student has identified what the assignment is, what class they're in, and given me all the information that I need, sometimes when I'm walking between classes, I can see it on my phone and I can give a quick answer right there. Not always, but sometimes. That's your hope. Your hope is that you provide enough context to get a quick and helpful answer. Other times, I might see the email, I might think I know what the answer might be, but I really need to get to my computer and check on some things and research it a little bit before I can provide a meaningful answer. So your reply may just take some time. But I know that if you email me on a Friday night after I've already gone off the computer, and you're emailing me repeatedly on Saturday and Sunday, or maybe your first email to me is on a Sunday evening, I'm probably not going to see it until Monday. Now, on the other hand, if you sent me something during business hours and it's been a reasonable amount of business time between 8 to 5 on a weekday and I still haven't replied, it is perfectly fine to reply and say, hey, I'm just checking, or hey, I know you're busy, but when do you think I might expect an answer on my issue, to let the teacher know that this still hasn't been resolved and that there's some level of urgency on your side for this. One of the useful things about AI is that you can use it to help you communicate more professionally. Again, we're not talking about going to AI and providing it the assignment and asking for an answer. What we're saying is, if you're going to ask a question, there's no problem with saying, hey, here's what I was going to send to my professor. Can you tell me how I could maybe say this differently? How could I take the emotion out of my email? What should I leave out that isn't useful context? What else should I include that is useful context, etc.? You can work with AI to help it draft a better communication, especially in situations, often I work with students that English is their second language. That's okay to mention. And AI and translator apps that you're probably already using in that case can help you manage that language gap. And I don't let language hold you back, but I say also don't expect special treatment. So we're not trying to be put you at a disadvantage if English is a second language. However, we are going to coach you that if you're going to be working in an English business environment, then improving your English skill is also part of your education. So demanding that students speak fluent English is part of your education expectations here. If you're going to college in Europe or someplace else, they might also have similar requirements that you speak fluently in their native language. Here it's English, and that's what I'm familiar with. So, but AI tools can help you to improve your fluency in the language that you're intending to communicate with. And I like that because it's a good excuse for using AI responsibly and constructively, and not for evil. So in summary, I hope this has been helpful. Just a few notes on communicating more professionally. To summarize, asking questions is reasonable. It's reasonable to run into things where you need help. It's reasonable to be able to ask questions of your professor. That's what we're here for. We want to provide that help. Treating other people professionally is a good skill also, and part of your education. And there are simple steps that you can take to make your communication more effective and to get you the answers that you want. And I hope that is helpful. And even with this, if there's any other questions that I can answer or help with, please reach out. Thank you.